And welcome back. Our second theme is project teams. And if the project manager needs to be super person, needs to be able to handle a whole lot of different things, the project team is essentially your vehicle through which you deliver your project. And they are absolutely vital to be able to choose the right person and be able to choose the right resources that you need. In terms of this section, it covers the teams, how teams are assigned and formed, explain and prepare effective project meetings, describe the characteristics and barriers of effective teams, apply problem-solving process in a project, effective brainstorming techniques, and then we'll also look at Tuckman's model of team performance. Making sure that you select the right project team is vitally important. You need to understand what experience, skills are needed, how many of each type are required, when they will be needed, and also you possibly need to acquire the team for smaller projects, assemble team members for larger projects as well. You need to understand who you're working with, what their skill set is, and what their tolerances are for stress and how they deliver their work. The greatest constraint is the availability of the right resources at the right time, especially if you're working within an organization and people are being assigned to the project on an ad hoc basis. You may have to negotiate for those resources when you share them across multiple projects. Also keep the team as small as feasible. If you have a smaller team that you work with, you'll be able to establish those relationships. You'll be able to have regular meetings with the team members as well. Tuckman proposed a model for stages of team development. So I will take you through that shortly. The first stage is the forming stage, the second one is the storming stage, the third one is the norming stage, and the fourth one is the performing stage. And the work that Tuckman did was essentially trying to understand how teams sort of evolve over time. And it's an important tool to understand the process in which you start developing and putting your team together in order for them to deliver the overall project objective. So when we look at the initial stage, which is the forming stage, individuals get acquainted, they get to know one another, understand the expectations from each other. There's also the time in which very little work is achieved, because this is the time in which people are sitting around and understanding what needs to be done. And also depends on the direction and structure. And they're also asking lots of questions at this point, like what is the purpose of the group? What's the purpose of the project? Who are the other people in the project? And also what are they like? At this point in the forming stage of it is where there's no sense of team as yet. And also you do very little at this point. This is the first couple of meetings in the project in which the project is outlined, in which resources and different responsibilities are assigned. And then you get into the second stage, which is the storming stage, because now that you've assigned responsibilities, there's going to be this fight amongst one another to establish sort of their own little space, to establish their own sort of little arena that they're working in. And also a scramble for resources, especially if there's limited resources. Every team member is going to try to scramble to ensure that they have sufficient resources to complete their part of the project. Tasks might be larger than expected for people, and also increasing dissatisfaction with dependence on others. Also test the limits of flexibility of the team. Conflict emerges and tension increases, motivation and morale are low, and members want to express their own individuality. So the storming stage is an important part of the group team development, because this is a stage in which you get people to communicate, because you need to draw out people. You need to draw out people. They need to talk. They need to say what they're feeling. They need to express parts of their expectations, because then everyone gets a sense of what is going on. Everyone gets a sense of who is who in the zoo, and that's an important part. At this point, you're still not doing much, and definitely the morale and the sense of team is also very, very low. but this is such an important part of the formation stage or of the team development stages. The third stage, which is the norming, the norming stage, this is when everything comes together. This is where the entire team develop a sense of team. This is also where people are, now that everyone have expressed their expectations, they begin to realize that all of them are expecting the same thing or similar, have similar ideas. A lot of these interpersonal conflicts are resolved and the team has accepted its operating environment. Control and decision making are transferred to the project team. Cohesion begins to develop. Trust begins to develop. Team members give and ask for feedback, and also there's the sense of camaraderie that emerges because now everyone understands that they're all on, excuse the pun, on the same team, and they all have a objective to achieve. The third stage, or the fourth stage, is the performing stage, and this is the time in which everything comes together. This is the time in which everyone sort of works together like clockwork. It's a high level of performance. Communication is open. Everyone has spent a lot of time in the norming stage to get to know one another and understand how people are communicating. Team feels fully empowered. Project manager fully delegates and responsibility and authority, and also the project manager becomes a mentor. At this stage, the project manager almost steps back and the rest of the team takes over and does everything that they need to do. Performance is high and sense of team is high. These stages are important process that the project team leader or that the project manager needs to be aware of. They need to understand what happens when there's conflict. They need to understand that it's a process that's developing and as a team are coming together. The kickoff meeting is the stage in which the project manager takes their time to set expectations, and it is vitally important. It is where the project team leader orientates everyone towards the expectations of the client. It's also setting the tone for the project, provides opportunity for the team to get to know one another, clarify their roles, describe protocols and plans, and also ask for questions and comments. This is that initial stage in which people are coming together, that forming stage. And the kickoff meeting is an important element where you set the entire tone for the balance of the project. Everyone needs to understand who is doing what and when, and where is the communication channels, who has the authority to make decisions, and who is responsible for ensuring that the task gets completed. Effective project teams are more than a group of individuals. They are a group that are fully interdependent and they work cooperatively to achieve the project objectives. In a case like this, it is 1 + 1 = 3. There is something that happens in effective teams that increases their performance exponentially. Not exceptionally, but exponentially. It is the power of the team. Develop and grow into a cohesive and effective team takes effort on the part of the project manager and each member. Developing the team and ensuring that they perform is the key part of the project manager's arsenal. It is that understanding that a team is better working together, and ultimately you'll be able to achieve your project objective on time, within budget, within specifications, if your team works together. Effective teams have a clear understanding of the project objective. They clearly understand what needs to be delivered. They've got clear expectations of each person's role and responsibilities. They are result orientated. They have a high degree of cooperation and collaboration and high levels of trust of each other. Team building is an important element during the work of the project. It's an ongoing process, and the team leader or the project manager needs to be continually aware of opportunities to build team spirit. Socializing does help. Those Friday afternoon drinks, or bringing muffins to work, or forming those rituals, and those sort of, the team becomes and develops its own culture, and a lot of that is intentional. You cannot just leave it up to things to just happen automatically. The team leader or the project manager must be intentional about how they're going to develop, because you don't have time. You don't have multiple years. Sometimes a project needs to be delivered within 6 months. And within that 6 months, you have to bring people together that maybe have never worked together before. You have to rally them around a single objective, and you have to get that team to perform in order to achieve the project objective. And you have to find these rituals, you have to find these ways of developing team spirit where people feel as if they're part of a small team with its own culture, with its own rituals, with its own artifacts. Enhanced by members getting to know one another through discussions that are not all work-related, and initiate social events to achieve and celebrate achievements. Those different milestones along the way of a project is an opportunity to tell a client what you've achieved, to present, but also to celebrate the achievements of the different project team members. In those milestone meetings, it's an opportunity to acknowledge hard work. It's an opportunity to acknowledge when people have done great work, to acknowledge people that have gone beyond their call of duty in terms of what was required. Have team meetings, not just project meetings. Have meetings in which you check in with people on a personal level rather than just to check in on whether they've done the work. Conflict is going to happen. Conflict is par for the course. The source of conflict is the work scope, meaning what the expectations are from people and what needs to be delivered. The resources in order to achieve their particular task, the scheduling conflicts, costs, priorities, some organizational issues, some stakeholder expectations, and also personal differences amongst one another. How do you handle those conflicts? You cannot avoid or withdraw. You definitely cannot, because those conflicts will fester and will affect the overall performance of the team. You cannot compete or force it. You cannot be accommodating or try to cover it up. You cannot compromise. You have to find ways of collaborating, confronting, or problem solving in order to resolve some of these conflicts. The 9-step problem solving approach is one that PMBOK sort of suggests, and it's part of those skills that you as a project manager need to develop. One is about understanding what the problem is, identify the causes of it, gather enough data and verify the most likely causes. And data is important. You have to justify and base your decisions on sound information. You cannot just go on feelings. Identify possible solutions, evaluate those alternative solutions, determine the best one, revise the project plan, implement that solution after discussion with the customer, and determine whether the problem has been solved. Always checking in with the parties involved again afterwards. Brainstorming in order to solve problems is another tool and technique and skill that can be used, and it involves all members of the team, and it's also meant to explore a broad range of ideas and possible solutions. The process, essentially, the team sits around a table, a facilitator records all ideas. Everyone has to state ideas. There is no judgment of the ideas. You can build on previous ideas, and you can continue until no one has any more fresh ideas. The idea or the concept behind brainstorming is essentially to get as many different ideas and possible solutions to a problem, and to use the collective creative power of the group. There's two important rules for it, which is there's no discussion or justification of that here, and there's no judgment. All participants are not allowed to make comments at all, and you have to be supportive and not judgmental around the ideas. And that sort of brings us to of the second theme. The next part of the learning unit will look at project management and organizational structures.